Blog Talk Radio.
Good afternoon. Welcome to today's show, What About Our Children? This is Brenda Johnson-Padgett, your host here on A-Swift Radio. Today on our show, I am also joined by my co-host, Glenda Fields of God's Anointed Ministries, Eunice Bridges of Chosen to Change. She won't be with us at this time, but she was one of our guests as well. Also, Michael Gwynn of MG Entertainment. On today's show, we will discuss the issues that face our kids in our communities, local and abroad. April was Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and October is the national holiday for Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Our kids today face issues of abuse, bullying, homelessness, broken parent-child relationship, illiteracy, high school dropout, teen pregnancy, AIDS, violence, gang, children of divorce, and the list goes on and on. Before we get started, I would like to give my co-host an opportunity to say hello, Glenda.
Hello, radio audience.
Hello,
and
everybody.
Michael. Okay,
Hey.
Thank you. Now on with today's show. Before we can talk about the issues that face our children, we have to talk about who is at fault. Accountability needs to be addressed. There is a consistent trend of irresponsible adults in our society, local and abroad, that needs to be addressed. Irresponsible adults are our children's first problem. It is the irresponsible adults who are abusing our kids, raping our kids, terrorizing our kids, messing with our kids' self-esteem, misleading our kids, and ultimately killing our kids. During the month of April 2013, there were several news reports of abused kids who suffered or were killed at the hand of an adult. The adult was either the parent, friend, or a stranger. Abuse of a child is never okay. It is never the answer, and it is never the fault of the child. Adults who are having problems parenting or dealing with their kids should seek out help from family, friends, or community services, get counseling, and educate themselves to become better parents. As adults, God put us here to be examples for kids. We must protect, provide, educate, and train up kids to become successful, healthy, and productive citizens of society. Anything less is unacceptable. The first question to the panel is, what can parents or adults do to help kids grow up to be healthy, successful, and responsible adults who have a positive impact on our communities, nation, and world? Okay, we're going to start with Glenda. Let's deal with this, Village.
Okay, one of the first things that parents can do concerning this matter, the first thing they can do is make sure that they reinforce love in the life of their child. Too often we have parents trying to be the friends or buddies of their children, but initially the first thing one has to do is to reinforce love. Love builds a child's self-esteem, self-worth, and when those values are implemented in a child's life, a child becomes more successful and more responsible. Second thing they can do is establish boundaries with their children. That's something that parents today need to do up front, establish boundaries. The Bible tells us that, children are to obey their parents in all things because that's pleasing unto the Lord in Colossians 3:20. But establishing boundaries with your children is an important thing that needs to be done, because once they have strong foundational boundaries established at home, those things will be implemented in the classroom as well as in the community. Then parents need to always have a line of communication open with their children so that children feel comfortable enough to talk about anything that could be actually going on in their lives. So communications is like a third key that parents need to implement rearing their children to make sure that they're successful in life. When parents communicate with their children, they become adults that are communicators as well, and that's a vital key for their success, because you need to know how to communicate with people and actually have good presentational skills and things like that. Another thing is that parents have to hold their children accountable. Not only do we look for the kids when they get to a certain age to hold the parents accountable for their upbringing, but parents need to hold their children accountable. They need to motivate them. They need to encourage them. They need to give them tasks and assignments and things to do. They need to make sure that they have strategic plans and goals from day one, and have them write out those things, build a strategy or a strategic plan that they want to implement, given 5-year goals, 10-year goals, 15-year goals, thus far. Also, we need to, as parents, we need to listen to our children. Listen to what they're saying, not speak and interpret what they're saying before they get their point across, but actually be good listeners and hear the heart of the child. And the next thing the parent needs to do is to teach our children faith. The Word of God tells us to train up a child in the way they should go, and when they get old, they will not depart. That means they will not depart from the things that you have taught them, instilled in them. So you need to know them, let them know what you believe, what your faith level is, and why you believe the way you believe. The Word of God also tells us that our children are our heritage, and they're the reward that God has given us, and that's in Psalms 127, verse 3. But we also need to teach our children our faith so that they may have a strong foundation. Once they build their lives upon a strong foundation, then those children will be strong, successful, productive citizens of society. And then the last thing parents need to do is respect the choices that their children make. None of us made all of the right decisions. Even at a young age, we need to train our children, what's right and what's wrong, so that they will make good decisions. But when they do make decisions, we need to respect those decisions. Once they become teenagers, we no longer need to parent them the way we did when they were younger children, but we need to also give them the leeway and the freedom to make decisions, kind of guide them in a sense to where they make a decision or come to a resolution of a problem that they have on their own, but you just kind of spoon-feeding them some information or tools that would be vital for them. That will give them the opportunity not only to prioritize their lives, but their careers, and pick the right friends, associate themselves with company that have same mindset as them, and it will cause them to be more of a contributor in the family unit. So those are some things that parents can do to help their children to become more successful, more productive citizens in today's society.
Okay, Glenda.
Yes.
Hello?
Yes.
Okay. Did you have anything else you would like to add?
Not with that particular question. Not with that particular question.
Okay, we're going to go on to the second question on the panel. I did want to get a male perspective on that as well. It looks like we may have lost Michael. He may call back in. But on the second question, it says, what can parents or adults do if you see or know of an irresponsible adult neglecting or abusing a child? One thing that I would add is that you need to report it if you do see it. You may be the only help that the child has in reporting it, and that's basically what we need to do as responsible adults, is to report if we see those things. Glenda, did you have anything on that particular question?
Also, to add to reporting it to the police, I think as parents and as adults, we need to get involved. There are ways you can talk to kids. There are different signs and codes that you can use with children that reveal to you that there's an abusive situation or there's neglect going on. Those things need to be implemented with responsible adults, not irresponsible adults, but responsible adults, as well as teachers and educators, community leaders, having those communication codes that you set up or established with a kid, safe codes, those things like that. And then another thing, aside of reporting it to the police, is calling CPS, reporting it to Child Protective Services, because we're talking about in an instance of neglect or abuse, the child's safety. And so we, just like you stated earlier, we have kids dying at the hands of irresponsible adults, be it through abuse or neglect. So we need to, as parents, as citizens of, productive citizens of society, report it also to CPS. Don't think for a minute that, you are doing a dishonor or disservice to the parent by reporting it. You are actually protecting that child. And if it turns out not to be something that's crucial, that's fine. That's fine. There's no problem with that. Don't worry about it. Don't feel guilty about it. Just know that you stepped up to the plate and did what you should have done, and that's reporting it. And the third thing people can do in the instance of neglect and abuse is one thing that I think the school systems actually do is take photos so that there is documented proof. So that way when it's reported to the police, there's proof. When it's reported to CPS, there's proof as well. So those are some things that parents can do when they actually see these type of things taking place with our children.
Okay. Well, thank you, Glenda. I do see that we have Michael back on the line. He did call back in. We want to at least get a male perspective on the second question as well of what would you do as a responsible adult when you see these type of things happening. Michael, can you give us your response on that?
Well, first of all, I want to say Happy Mother's Day, and secondly, I want to apologize for the little phone incident. I apologize for that, but and that was a very eloquent response, by the way, Ms. Linda. First, to me, is to make certain that, it's a neglectful or abusive situation, get all the facts, let a qualified law enforcement or welfare specialist handle it. That way there are no lawsuits, no harm to you, no further harm to the child. The main thing, is that you make sure that, everybody's safe. Often your eyes are a kind of a buffer to the situation, but sometimes giving the degree of intensity with whatever parents are involved or whatever adults is involved, it could exacerbate the situation. So I think her response was to make sure that, you call that number for your state or local child welfare or child protective service agency and let them handle it. But you got to get all the facts first.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Michael. I also want to add that some of the parenting methods that are used by some parents are abusive, degrading, lowering kids' self-esteem, and are illegal. These include extension cords, throwing objects at your kids, slapping them, using degrading language when talking to your child, etc. Some of the methods that parents used on kids in the past during the 50s to the 80s were illegal too. This is why educating yourself formally or informally is very important. If you are being stressed out by the responsibility of rearing kids, to seek help before you get to the point of hurting your child. Be responsible when it comes to your children. If you don't be responsible, a responsible adult will report you, or it could be your own child that reports you. When you are an adult, no one should have to micromanage you. Just because you did not get the education, training, or upbringing from your parents that you feel you should have gotten does not mean you are defeated. When you become an adult, you can change things for yourself and go after for what you did not get as a child growing up. No more excuses. Any abuse of children should be reported and can be reported anonymously by calling the National Child Hotline Abuse Hotline at 1-800-4-A-CHILD. You can also get resources at www.childhelp.org. Now, there has also been a trend in the past and present of single-parent households. According to the United States Census Bureau 2010, 9.9 million are single women and also 1.8 million are single men. The percentages of single parents rearing kids by themselves are 85% for single moms and 15% for single dads. Whatever the reason are for these single-parent households, this is not God's original design for the family. The original design was when God created man and woman, or Adam and Eve, and told them to be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth, rule over it, and subdue it, according to Genesis chapter 1 and 28. God's design was not for women to rear children by themselves. This trend of women rearing children by themselves has become the norm in our society, especially among African American women, or the African American race. According to the Associated Press article titled Black Struggle with 72% Unwed Mother Rate, dated November the 7th, 2010 on NBCnews.com, the article shows the percentage of children born to single mothers in each race. 72% were black, 17% were Asian, 29% were white females, and also 53% were Hispanic, and 66% for Native Americans. Let's go back to accountability. Where are the fathers of these children who are being reared by single mothers? The issue that face our kids are not just the mother's responsibility to correct, but the fathers are equally responsible as well. The next question to the panel: what are the responsibilities of fathers when it comes to rearing kids to become successful, healthy, and responsible citizens of our communities, nation, and worldwide? I want to get Michael's response on that.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. You want to get my response to that? Okay, well, first thing is to be a positive male role model, to embody a positive presence that exemplifies, provider, teacher, protector, leader. To me, that's the most important thing to facilitate a type of successful, healthy, and responsible citizens in our community and nationwide.
Okay. Glenda, did you want to add anything to that?
I like what Michael said, but I wanted to add that fathers need to go back to the basics. They need to go back to the Word of God. They need to go back to the original foundation, where God holds the man accountable for everything that goes on in the household. The woman is actually a helpmeet. So even though the husband and the wife will no longer be together, or the father is rearing the children on his own, it still does not give him the opportunity to neglect the responsibilities that God has assigned to him. He not only is supposed to be the provider and that role model and things like that, he is actually supposed to be the priest over that child. He's responsible for that child's spiritual upbringing, along with making sure that child is getting educated in society. So we're oftentimes we're looking at the attack in our world today is on the family unit. So that's why the divorce rates are high. That's why we have so many single parents, being male and female households. But that is Satan's strategic plan. That's been his plan all along, is to conquer and divide. And that's what society is teaching our children through parents. But parents can't do it alone. When we were growing up, we were told it takes a village to raise a kid. So right. We need the village to step up. So the single parents, the single mothers, and the single fathers, they're responsible for the upbringing of the child. And absentee fathers is just not optional. It's not an option. It's just absolutely, it's not an option. We have to train up our kids the way they should go. We got to go back to the Bible. We have to stick to the Word of God. That is our foundation. That's our roadmap. That's the manuscript and teaching tool that we have to actually go through and use when we're bringing up our children. If we're looking for successful, productive children to function in society as responsible adults. And so we have to do those things because we're dealing with an immoral world. People are not moral today. And so children are the eyes that look at the entire world. They are a representation of us no matter what we think. So if we're not rearing them as fathers and as mothers morally, then we're going to have immoral children because they mimic what they see. And so I like the fact that Michael said they have to be a positive role model, because when you instill positive values into your children, then you produce positive, productive children of society. So that was just something I wanted to add.
Okay. Well, thank you, Glenda. The next question on our panel, it says, does a father's responsibility end just because he is not with the child's mother? What should he do to make sure he has a positive impact on his child or his children? And I believe that we pretty much answered that through Glenda's response and also Michael's response. The next question, or the next thing that I want to also add is I also want to add that a father has the financial, emotional, and physical responsibility for the children. They are equally responsible for their children, no matter if they remarry or get into another relationship. A father should never let another woman interfere with his relationship with his kids, financially, emotionally, or physically. It is the fault of the man when he allows another woman to keep him from being responsible to his kids. Now, that can go both ways. It could be where the kids are with the father, and then the mother allows a man to interfere with her child. So it could go either ways, but in this particular situation, we see a higher trend of where that's happening with the mothers rearing the children by themselves. The next issue that we would deal with on the panel is bullying. What can be done at home, school, and in the community to prevent our kids from being bullied? And I believe that Glenda has information on that. Glenda?
One of the first things that parents can do at home is observe the children. We have to be so active in their lives that we are watching all of the signs and the signals that's given when it comes to bullying. As a young child myself, I went through bullying. Nobody noticed anything. A household of 8 children, and nobody knew I was being bullied. Because there are signs. Kids start being withdrawn, they start getting to themselves, they start lashing out. I mean, so many characteristics and signs come up, but when the parents are so busy, working and just living life, they neglect the children. That's a form of neglect right there. They neglect the children in a sense that they're not monitoring or watching what's going on with the child, noticing their actions or changing behavior. So that's one thing that can be done at home is parents need to become more observant of what's going on with their children. Another thing they can do is teach their children how to handle those type of situations. We have to teach our children to be problem solvers, even when it comes to bullying. Nobody was there to teach me those things. There's some things I had to kind of learn and develop along the way myself. But once you teach a child how to handle bullying, then they can actually crush or defeat the issue that's going on, and that will rebuild their self-esteem, and it would teach them how to ignore things like that in the future and not become confrontational or become bullies themselves. And then another thing is they can set boundaries, because we have so many forms of bullying when it comes to technology, and teaching our children how to recognize a threat to themselves, be it cyberbullying, over Facebook or MySpace or whatever, our children are on these days. But we can monitor what they're doing, excuse me, and we can monitor the use of their cell phones and iPads and all this other stuff that our kids have. And then another thing at home parents need to do, referring to bullying, is communicate with their children. The more we communicate with our children, the more they will open up and expose things. It will decrease the attacks that are upon our children from secondary school levels to high school. It will cut down the peer pressure, because our children will be open and willing to talk to us. Not only that, it enforces and builds a strong, positive relationship with them and the parent, and it helps them to have a greater level of self-esteem and self-awareness. Because in today's society, with bullying, we're dealing with 1 out of every 10 children. Some kids that are bullied end up becoming dropouts. We have 75% rating of shootings because kids are being harassed by bullies, and most often by bullying statistics, those kids result to what they call revenge crimes as young as, middle school. And so those are some things that we can stop because we have physical bullying, verbal bullying, cyberbullying. Those things end up in the long haul being detrimental to our children. And so if we are more aware and we're communicating more with our children, we can reduce the bullying suicide rates, which, are 10, 14, starting at the age of 10 for most in the U.S. and going up throughout the high school years. We can reduce the crimes that are happening on our university campus and in our high schools, just like the instance with the crimes that we are recently seeing, Boston, the marathon thing, the crime in the schools, all the way back to the shootings of students on campuses being picked off like meat in Arkansas. And so, the list just goes on and on. Then we have children themselves killing themselves inside the school bathrooms and the gyms and different places at home. If we're communicating with our children, we can cut down on a lot of those things, and that would help them in the long run. And so a website individuals can go to actually help prevent that is www.makebeastnothreattome.org and find and pull up the fact sheet, and that will kind of help. And you can go to bullying.org, you can go to the U.S. Website of bullying, Google bullying in the U.S., and those are things that can help reduce the 60, 80, 75 percentiles that we're getting of our children being harassed on a daily basis.
Okay. Thank you, Glenda, for that information. Now, we are running out of time, but what I do encourage you to do when we're done with the show is go back and listen to the podcast. It'll be the complete show. We're going to continue to finish our discussion, but just in case we go off the air, make sure you go back and listen to the podcast or the complete show. What I'm going to do at this particular time, I'm going to go ahead and do a short commercial break, and then we'll come back and finish the discussion. Thank you. Poetry Slam, spoken language arts methods by MG Entertainment. Contact Michael Gwynn to host a Poetry Slam event for the youth in your area. To have your child participate in these events, call MG Entertainment at 972-704-5001. It's always time to pray. Prayer for our families, kids, and nation. Join Pastor Rutha and Glenda Fields of Timely Kingdom Objectives each Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time to pray. The call-in number is 1-605-475-4700, access code 126580#. EB's Flip the Script Productions by Eunice Bridges. She writes books, plays, produces short films, and movies. She produced her first short film, The Prayer of a Righteous Seed, and is currently working on other projects. To find out more about EB's Flip the Script Productions, log on at www.ebsflipit.com. The Young Scholars Book Club, a free online educational program for pre-K to fourth grade. The program offers a monthly book title to read, downloadable tutoring worksheets in all 4 core subjects, answer keys, prizes, recognition, and a whole lot more. Visit the Young Scholars Book Club online at www.tysbookclub.com or email info@tysbookclub.com for more information. Welcome back to What About Our Children. We are talking about the issues that face our kids today. And we have on with us Michael Glenn of MG Entertainment and also Glenda Fields of God's Anointed Ministries. If you have any feedback or questions that you would like to ask, you can always email those questions to us at news@aswiftradio.com to give us your feedback, or if you want some other questions answered. A lot of our kids today are children of divorced parents. Many kids go between two households every other weekend to maintain a relationship with the other parent. Even though parents fight it out in family court concerning custody battles, the focus should be on what is best for the child. Children are affected as a result of divorce. Some effects may show up immediately and others may not show up until later. Nevertheless, the child is affected, especially when the divorce was ugly. Children in these instances need counseling to help them deal with the breakup of their parents. It is never good for the child when both parents continue to argue and fight after the divorce. It's confusing to the child on whether their allegiance should go to mom or should it go to dad. Michael, could you give us your point of view, a man's point of view, on what should men do to maintain a civil relationship with their ex-wife to show respect to their ex-wife and their children?
Well, the main thing you should do is you should never have arguments or show any type of discord in front of the children. You should always try to remember that, what you do is teaching, it's molding. So being respectful to women, especially for women, young children, men, male and female children, they need to see that no matter what, you're able to maintain that level of civility, that level of respect, to continue to, despite whatever adversity or hardships you've had in a relationship, to see that you can overcome that. That teaches them how to overcome adversity, how to communicate, how important that is, that they don't have to dwell in the mistakes of the past, that you can move on. So, just to continue to, to maintain that the children are first, that they need to, no matter what adults are going through, children are only see their parents. They don't see divorce. They don't see separation like we do. They need to know that the parents have put their best interest at heart. So that's the main thing, is to make sure that the children are put first, and that there are no arguments or any issues that continue to cause any type of trauma to the kids, and they can grow from that.
Okay. Well, thank you, Michael. Okay, now, Glenda, in the case of women, what should women do to maintain a civil relationship with their ex-husband to show respect to him and the kids?
One thing I found from counseling women after divorce is that I always tell them up front, make sure that you achieve an emotional divorce, because the attachments are there. I mean, you keep the excess baggage and all of those things. That's one thing you need to cut loose, cut those ties. Stay on the path of recovery. They need to always implement a growth process where they're further improving themselves, healing, forgiving. Go back to what Michael was saying, not having the arguments and different things like that, being confrontational with each other in the presence of the kids. And another thing women need to do is to make sure that they keep an open line of communication with their ex. Even when dealing with the children, unless it's an abusive case or something like that situation that they came out of an abusive divorce. But if they were not involved in an abusive divorce, they need to keep an open line of communication on how they're going to handle the children and different things like that. Even if they are have custody that's 50-50, or one has custody and one, have visitation privileges, they need to be able to keep those things open and available for the sake of the children, without stressing what's actually going on with them, or showing their frustrations. And then they need to make sure that they set healthy boundaries with each other, so that there are no relapses of those relationships, because, like I said, there are emotional ties that are involved there. And then women need to also do self-examination. If you're at a place, you're talking to that individual and you ain't ready to handle that, in order to have a productive, healthy relationship for those children, you need to make sure that you can get through that. And so that may cause you to have to go through counseling or consult with a friend or spiritual leader or something. And then the next thing is just leave all your negativity behind, the drama. Just get rid of the drama. Negative emotions. Don't bring all that stuff up. Make sure you have closure in your relationship, and never discuss who or what their father was to you with your children. Don't badmouth them or talk about, degrade them in the presence of your children, because they're, like Michael was saying, they see the father and they see the mother. They don't see the divorce. And the last thing is that, at all costs, no matter what you're feeling, no matter what that person is feeling, the whole spectrum that you should look at is to always remain professional with that individual, whether you're in the presence of your children or not. That keeps your relationship healthy with that ex as well as with your children, showing that there are no emotional ties and you have gotten rid of the excess baggage and drama that's in your life.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you, Glenda, for that response. This segment was really, really educational. It actually was very informative. We're going to have a part 2 of What About Our Children coming up as well. So continue to check A-Swift Radio website at www.aswiftradio.com to see when that show is going to come up. Now, also at this time, I'm going to play a song. It's an old song, but it's still relevant today by Shirley Caesar, and I'm going to go ahead. It's called No Charge by Pastor Shirley Caesar, and after that song, we'll go ahead and end the show. I just want you to listen to what she has to say in this song.
My sister's little boy came into the kitchen one evening while she was fixing supper, and he handed her a piece of paper he'd been writing on. And after wiping her hands on an apron, she took it in her hands and she read it, and this is what it said. For mowing the yard, $5. If I'm making up my own bed this week, $1. For going to the store, 50 cents. And playing with little brother while you went shopping, 25 cents. Taking out the trash, $1. And for getting a good report card, $5. And for raking the yard, $2. Total owed $14.75. Well, she looked at him standing there and expecting, and 1,000 memories flashed through her mind. So she picked up the pen and turned the paper over, and this is what she wrote. For the 9 months I carried you, growing inside me, no charge. For the night I sat up with you, doctor, you prayed for you, no charge. For the time and the tears and the cost through the years, there is no charge. When you add it all up, the full cost of my love is no charge. For the nights filled with gray and the worries ahead, no charge. For advice and the knowledge and the cost of your college, no charge. For the toys, food and clothes, and for wiping your nose, there's no charge, son. When you add it all up, the full cost of my love is no charge. Well, you know, when I think about that, I think about the day that Jesus went out on Calvary and gave his life as a ransom for me. When I think on the words, if any man be in Christ, he's a new creature. I like to think that the very minute that he shedded his blood, my debt was paid in full. And I want you to know today, when you add it all up, the full cost of real love is no charge.
I hope you enjoyed listening to What About Our Children. Continue to check www.aswiftradio.com for upcoming shows, or you can call us direct at 1-800-775-2708, extension 3060. You can also email us at news@aswiftradio.com to give us your feedback on the show. Thank you for tuning in and listening to our show. This is Brenda Johnson-Padgett here on ASWIF Radio.